China issues ominous threat to President JB, Australia over the nuclear submarine deal. A bit late for that, don't you think? We have talked about this submarine deal for years since it pissed off France, and now it says that China has issued a terse warning Tuesday over the U.S. and some of its allies are on a, quote, dangerous path over Washington agreed to sell nuclear-powered subs to Australia. The latest joint statement issued by the U.S., UK, and Australia shows that the three countries have gone further down the wrong and dangerous path for their own geopolitical self-interest, completely ignoring the concerns of the international community. I'm assuming kind of throwing in there that they kind of screwed over France, right? It says the deal, part of the AUKUS partnership between the three countries, will see the U.S. provide Australia with at least 3 nuclear-powered submarines beginning in the early 2030s, a move that aims to directly counter China's ambitions in the region. The U.S. and Britain could deploy submarines to Australia as soon as 2027 to train crews in anticipation of the completion of the first submarines from the deal. One thing that is thrown out there and that, nobody even really pays much attention to is that, this is in 2030. If it's a few years out, even 3 or 4, people are like, oh, it's down the road. First of all, just want you to think back to, say, 2016. That was not long ago. In fact, time has been flying by. But I also want to point out that almost all of the deadlines that they have put for 2027, 2028, 2030, 2032, 2033, there was, in fact, even the amphibious contract that was supposed to be all the way out into 2033. Those have all been moved up or finished in 2023, or they're finishing in the mid next year. There's a ton of them. And I want to point out that that is alarming. When they speed up contracts that fast, there is something coming. This, as far as this goes, now the media and the whole narrative now is that, there's coming, and we're in a Cold War with China, and that a hot war is going to happen if they take Taiwan. So we'll talk about this and much, much more, including a U.S. aircraft downed by Russia. There's conflicting reports. We'll talk about it. But is this the event that they needed? Is this the thing that could kick things off? We'll give you our opinion and much more when we come back. We'll be right back. This is a live show, so anything can happen. Stick around. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time. If this is your first time here and somebody has brought you here, thank you for whoever did. But also remember, you have a full bibliography with every single source for every single article that we are going to show you. If we show you a picture, a tweet, a video, a document, the links and the sources are all available over at marfooglenews.com, which the link is right below. If you look in the description in almost every platform, you will see that there is the marfooglenews.com link, and then it's very easy to navigate. It is all done by thumbnail. Just look for downed, and then once you click on that, It just went down. It will bring you every single link, article, tweet, video, picture, document, plus a whole lot more. There is an overflow. That is the stuff that will get you in a fight if you talk about it in a bar, or the stuff that just couldn't fit into the show. It wasn't important enough. There is some stuff that is actually very important, but almost too important. So make sure to go check down there. There is an entire other show there. We'll talk about that at the very end with Dex. And speaking of which, let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is happening and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So we're going to talk about several things today, including obviously the bank. The bank stuff is going nuts. People ran on the bank. They say that Twitter is actually involved in that it was the first ever Twitter-driven bank run. We're going to talk about China is to raise retirement ages to basically deal with their population problem, which is just insane. We're going to talk about UKR. We're going to talk about the Pentagon. We're going to talk about the U.S. drone that was taken down. Many go, oh, well, nobody was in it. It's a very expensive craft, and this is exactly what some predicted would happen as some sort of Fantastic Freddy event, which, again, we'll see. We'll see if we'll talk about the event that happened, and are they going to release the video of it? Was it as bad as they say it was? We don't know. There's conflicting reports right now, but we'll talk about that later. Dex, let's go back to China issues the ominous threat. Now, this is something we have watched for years, and now all of this is coming to a head. I want to say Clayton Morris over at Redacted, he ended up saying this is the first time in his life that he has seen China publicly saying and talking about war with the U.S. They usually are very reserved about that. You know, they'll talk to their own, but now they're making public statements about it. Is it all just one big circus or what?
Correct. We reported last week that was the first time Xi ever called our name out directly. So yeah, things have been escalating. We've been covering that as well. In the sense that he always just said Western nations or other developed nations. He never really called us out, but even as early as last week, he started calling us out directly by name. This is the big deal for Xi is that we're actually sharing a submarine missile launch tech that has never been shared before. This is, some high-tech stuff that has always been kept close to the belt, so to speak, for ourselves or close to the vest. And the other thing is this sub would be equipped to fire hypersonics. And so these subs will be able to do that as well. So those are two big sticking points, I think, and having that technology in the Pacific theater, especially down with Australia, makes a lot of sense from US's point of view, and it's very clear why Xi doesn't like that.
Yeah, it's essentially you would have the ability to put our technology and our launch capabilities right up on their doorstep, which I mean they already have, but they would basically be there all the time. And then we have California at high risk of locally catastrophic flooding. California has been going through it. Ilea and others that live there, I'm sorry that you're dealing with all of this. Ever since that polar vortex broke and you guys had storm after storm after storm, I feel really bad for the folks down there. Shannon BOD, if you're still in California, I hope that you guys are okay. A lot of folks have had just incredible weather events, one thing after another. And now it says waterlogged California faces one of its most serious flood threats Tuesday in what's already been a historically stormy season. The National Weather Service has declared a high risk of excessive rainfall in both coastal and mountainous zones as yet another strong atmospheric river bombards the state. It says the Weather Service issues such high-risk proclamations only about 15 times a year across the country, but they are associated with 80% of the flood losses and 39% of the fatalities. The atmospheric river is hitting California just 4 days after President JB declared a state of emergency. The Weather Service is warning of locally catastrophic flooding impacts expected for portions of the coast, Central Valley, and the Sierra Nevada foothills. It says one of the high-risk areas covers the central Sierra Nevada, stretching from Yosemite National Park to east of Fresno. That's where heavy rainfall totaling 3 to 6 inches will combine with rapid snowmelt to overwhelm area creeks and rivers. Some areas could see in excess of 8 inches. It says a second high-risk zone has been introduced for the central California coastline and the coastal range from near Monterey to the west of Santa Barbara. So again, in this map, it's too small for you guys to see, but you can see in the red is where they are showing a lot of the really bad stuff happening. And I forget what the pink meant. Dex, what was the pink? That was at least 70%. And then I want to say, yeah, that's just insane. So hang in there. I don't know what California is going through right now, but it's been getting really bad. And then Moody's cuts outlook on U.S. banking system to negative, citing rapidly deteriorating operating environment. In a harsh blow to an already reeling sector, Moody's Investors Service on Monday cut its view on the entire banking system to negative from stable. The firm, part of the Big Three rating services, said that it was making the move in light of three key failures that prompted regulators to step in Sunday with a dramatic rescue plan for depositors and other institutions impacted by the crisis. If you haven't followed the last few days, SVB, of course, got shut down and taken over by the FDIC, or whatever they call it when they grab and essentially take over. And this has been a huge hit to everything. This has had a domino effect. It has freaked people out. Many people did runs on the bank, literal runs on the bank. And that we know. We have Foogle family members here and audience members that are saying that they did their run to the bank. It says, quote, "We have changed to negative from stable our outlook on the U.S. banking system to reflect the rapid deterioration in the operating environment following deposit runs at Silicon Valley Bank, Silvergate Bank, and Signature Bank, and the failures of SBB and SNY." It says the move followed action late Monday when Moody's warned that it would either downgraded or placed on review for downgrade 7 individual institutions. What's even crazier is some believe, and actually a lot believe, that this was meant to get people out of the smaller, credit unions and smaller banks and get them into some of the major ones, the JP Morgans, the Chase, the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos. And many people did. There's already articles coming out saying that everybody, fleed over. So Dex, I believe you said something along those lines, and now they're even saying that everybody just headed to the main 4 branches of the bank. If you have everyone under a smaller umbrella, it's a whole lot easier to track. So that is one theory that is out there. Dex, did you see the articles by AP that kind of echoed what you said before?
No, actually, I did not.
Or Washington Times, maybe. It was
no, I didn't see it, but it was, in my opinion, it seemed to be the undertone of what was going on. And Moody's coming out. This is the major rater for the banks, the rating system. They're the ones who downgraded SVP right before everybody bailed on them, and it went kaput. This they're basically saying the entire banking system is in the toilet, so to speak, or at least in the negative on the rating system, which is not a good sign. And I guess we'll talk a little bit about that in the next article too, as it relates to this overall economic picture we're in right now.
And speaking of which, basically everything is going up. U.S. consumer prices increase solidly in February. Dex, do you want to talk about how everything just went up and increased, even though, not a lot of the paychecks around the country did?
Exactly. So rents are still high. Prices are still going up. And so this was the big number that everybody was waiting for. They wanted to see what happened with inflation. The reason one of the reasons we're in the banking issue right now is because they've raised rates. Well, they raised rates because inflation has gone up. They're trying to keep inflation from going up, so they raised the rates. Of course, you can backtrack from there. They raised the rates because of inflation. Well, inflation is because they printed all the money during the CV time. So all of those things, have a ripple effect. And right now we're at this point where they being the Fed is trying to decide if they're going to have to raise rates again to try to stave off this inflation, or if the inflation is sort of getting to its peak, stopping, and hopefully going to retract or at least stay at the same level it is now. If they have to raise rates, that's going to, once again, put even more pressure on the banking system. So that's why they're sort of stuck here at this point, where they've got to, the decisions they make. If they lower rates, that'll help the banking system. If they leave them the same, that'll help. If they raise rates, that'll help inflation, but it'll probably mess up the banking system. So that's why this news is important. This is what we were talking about yesterday. I think somebody in chat had said, "Hey, the numbers are coming out today," and that's what this is. So numbers don't look that great. They could be worse. They could be a lot better, though, to be honest. And we'll have to see now what the Fed does going into their. I think they got a meeting coming up soon where they make another decision on the rates.
I want to point out, so you probably all know the name Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey said something right just a week or 2 weeks right before he left Twitter. It was a very freaky statement, and at that time we covered it. But Jack, back when he was still CEO, and I believe, was he? I think he was still CEO. Yeah, he was CEO for another 2 weeks. Said hyperinflation is going to change everything. It's happening. Hyperinflation, of course, is another kind of doomsday scenario that many people in our community have talked about, but there's actually an entire other community that's following this. Just as if you watch, there's a whole niche of channels surrounding prep and a whole channel, channel subset of people that review cameras or, video games. Whatever there is, there's a huge subset following the finances. And all of them are saying the same thing. If you follow some of those channels, make sure to mention or throw out some channel names of some great ones to watch. I would love to be introduced to some new YouTubers as well. But they're all saying a lot of the same thing, which they believe their doomsday scenario is a hyperinflation like Venezuela, where, you had to have, $40,000 to buy a toilet paper roll. That sounds insane, but that is what hyperinflation could mean. This is something that it's like, why did he say this? It's just very creepy. And then that was in October 22nd of 2021. Now you fast forward, it's been getting worse and worse and worse, and you have the world at the brink of war. Could the conflict and the military industrial, could this be a way to kind of, reset everything and switch over to something else? Many people absolutely believe the very public reset option that they've been talking about, the great one. And to do that, you would have to basically do exactly what it says, reset. And to do that, it's going to be very painful and it's going to hurt everybody. So this is why preppers prep. It's not just storms. It's not just SHTF. It's not just earthquakes or tornadoes. It's financial events. It's power events. It's grid down scenarios. From the outside, I could see why people think, all of these people just focus on the negative. I guess it's more looking at it like we focus on what positive can come out after something like this happens. And when these things do happen, and they do, it is probable that almost everyone here in the audience will go through some sort of emergency in their life, whether it be a tornado, or earthquake, a flood, whatever it may be. Almost everybody, 90% of people do not prepare for those things. This is the small subset of people that do. And just as some people like to crochet, or some people play video games, or some people do this is what we do. We follow this stuff, and this is our passion. If I wasn't doing this channel, I would be watching others. I would be following this just as closely, just like I did on every single break at work back when I was in banking and credit card processing and all of that. Now I'm back to step one. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to get a whole lot worse. So I hope people are paying attention to what is happening with the banks, what's happening with the countries. There's flashpoints all over the world, and people still want to just plug their ears and say nothing is happening. It's not going to work for much longer. Let's see here. And then Dex, you want to talk about North Korea launches the short range. And I also talked about this on the main channel over on Marfoogle News. If you haven't watched the short shareable video, those are more made so you can share them out. They're 15 minutes or less, and they're more for you to share us out and to get out the most important stories. So make sure to go over and check that out afterwards. But Dex, do you want to talk and give your opinion on this?
No surprise. Yet again, another launch from Kim and the NK, um, the crack team there. I think what's more important in this message, because we're gonna see this a lot, and the reason why I say that is this week is the start of the Freedom Shield exercises. So that is what's going on with SK and the US, and these are the drills, and they're supposed to last 10 days. So they say they're doing this to conduct, a stabilization campaign, repel an attack. Those are the types of drills. They probably aren't going to announce this, but it's probably assumed that they're doing the cutting off the head of the snake, so to speak, drill as well, which is one that Kim really doesn't like because that's going after him directly. I don't know how they drill for that, but they've talked about it in the past in past drills. So the fact that we've got 10 days, a 10-day long drill that's going on right now with SK, it's probably day 2, or maybe with the time divide now it's starting into day 3, but it's this week basically into the weekend. We're probably going to see numerous. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see more and more of this from Kim. Now the danger comes is if he does something serious, like going over the country of Japan, or if a major accident happens with one of his launches. But that's his MO. He seems to react whenever we're doing drills, and it's a 10-day long drill that we just started.
And we have watched them for years, and we always do these drills. He always reacts. I guess now, in the climate that we're in right now, with every other country and every other ally of his, and you've got Russia, Iran, you have China, you have Cuba, you have all of these other countries, even South Africa joining Russia. You have all these other countries all moving their pieces around the chessboard. So I always wondered if the North would be used to do something that nobody else would do or could do, because they're already a hermit society, right? And then before we talk about China to raise the retirement age to deal with aging population, remember, if you do want to protect yourself against EMP, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP, get our grandfathered in $50 off, and that again is per device, and that also stacks on top of any of the sales they do. This can protect your devices, your cars, your generators, your boats, your motorcycles, your trucks, and even your house against not only an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse strike, but it can also protect you against solar flares or CMEs. If a Carrington level event happens right now, you would want your stuff to keep running. They actually make a EMP shield specifically for the Flex 1500. So if you've wondered about solar generators and how to protect them, if you go with the Flex, you can actually get an EMP shield officially made for it. Go over and check them out. They are the same agency that is helping out DOD, DHS, and of course, they are helping the DEMSO team protect the Texas grid. So go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's a veteran-owned, 100% American-made product. Again, go over and check it out. They are awesome there. They will definitely be an experience. They are all really great people, very personable. They're very family-like. Even as they get bigger, they are still the same family-run place. So go over to that, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Not only will you get something that could protect you or save your life, but you'll also be helping our independent channel at the same time and getting a discount. And then China to raise retirement age to deal with aging population. Sounds strange, but in some way this actually makes sense to the experts. They're saying that China is planning to raise its retirement age gradually in phases to cope with the country's rapidly aging population. The state-backed Global Times said on Tuesday, citing a senior expert from China's Ministry of Human Resources. Jinwei Gang, president of the Chinese Academy of Labor and Social Security Sciences, said that China was eyeing a progressive, flexible, and differentiated path to raising the retirement age, meaning that it would be delayed initially by a few months, which would be subsequently increased. People nearing retirement age will only have to delay retirement for several months, but it said, the Global Times said, citing Jin, young people may have to work a few years longer, but will have a long adaptation and transition period, he said. The most important feature of the reform is allowing people to choose when to retire according to their circumstances and conditions. China has yet to formally announce a change to its retirement age, which is among the lowest in the world at 60 for men, 55 for white-collar women, and 50 for women that work in factories. Li Qiang, the country's new premier, said on Monday that the government would conduct rigorous studies and analysis to roll out the policy prudently in discourse. It says as China's 1.4 billion people population declines and ages in part of a policy that limited couples to one child from 1980 to 2015, pressures on pension budgets are escalating, creating more urgency for policymakers to address the situation. That's so crazy that the one-child thing ended just in 2015. This is a horrible country. They literally controlled how many children people could have. It's amazing that they still were able to even get to a 1.4 billion people population with that kind of rule in place for 35 years. That is insanity. On top of that, the 55, and I forget, don't they call people over 55 like useless eaters or something, similar to what the Germans called it?
I've heard that term before.
I think they call it something similar to that, right? Let's see here. So they're going to extend it. I guess that's just going to keep people working for peanuts longer, I guess. And then learning from UKR, Taiwan shows off its drones as a key asymmetric warfare. It says Taiwan showcased new models of its domestically produced military drones on Tuesday, saying that they are key to its asymmetric warfare. It says that to make its forces more agile if they have to face a far larger Chinese military. China, which has never renounced the use of force to bring Taiwan under its control, has ramped up military activity near the democratically governed island to force it to accept Chinese sovereignty despite Taiwan's objections. It says that the war in UKR has lent new urgency to Taiwan military's efforts to bolster defense, including a push to develop drones. In a rare display of its drone capabilities, the military-owned National Chongshan Institute of Science and Technology showed its latest models, including the Albatross, which again named after the bird, to surveillance drone and combat drones that operate with global positioning system satellites. It said that NCSIST says head Art Chang said that the war in UKR had focused attention on drones, and his institution had teamed up with Taiwan companies to build a, quote, national team to develop military drones. Taiwan's military has announced a partnership with companies aimed at producing 3,000 drones next year. This is just crazy to think about. All of the next conflicts are going to have drones all over the place. If we did see a great war, you're going to be less worried about a person flying over you or seeing a Chinese or Russian or whatever jet flying towards you. You're going to see drones. And one of the scariest parts is the plans that they actually have for these small, explosive, basically kamikaze drones, are these little DJI-sized drones, and thousands of them would deploy, have facial recognition, have pre-plotted paths. All of them would have, and be able to, on the fly, change course and change if they see somebody in a military outfit, they would be able to hit that person. Or if they have a target, say they happen to somehow acquire the address of every single person who owned a Bang Bang, in the event of an invasion, they could send these drones out. They would swarm and hit every single location that has a weapon in it. This is out of sci-fi, but this is what they are doing. They already have their drone carriers. So it's crazy to think Taiwan and all of these countries are going to have thousands upon thousands of drones taking each other out. We're going to have drones taking out drones and, autonomous missiles taking out this and that and this. I mean, this is crazy. Dex, as far as like the drones, the next war is going to be bonkers.
It is. I think no one here yet said those are called switchblades. I think I recall that name. Is that the one you're referring to? And they're the ones that come out of the massive system that can launch multiple of these drones in the swarms. So, give Taiwan a little credit here in the sense that they are prepping in advance as opposed to begging for last minute supplies from everybody. They, obviously they're a much more technologically advanced country, I think, in my opinion, than say UK are. So it's not surprising to see that they're building out pretty advanced drone systems and getting prepared for the inevitable. And we say inevitable because even Xi has said it's inevitable. He's going to take them, or at least attempt to. So the more they prepare in advance, I think the better chances they have to stave that off.
And I wasn't, but the Switchblade is cool, and I've seen that being used in, documentaries and in movies. This is actually, look at this. This was in one of the, U.S. is Fallen, or one of those Russell Crowe movies, but it was actually a very ahead of its time thing, or maybe they actually knew about this in development. There was a truck like this in one of the, this London Has Fallen, or I forget, it's the latest one. And they showed a truck like this pull up, and it launches, and in the plot of that movie, Russell Crowe, this is freaky because it's literally what they're developing. All of these missiles took out everybody in the president's crew, all of the Secret Service agents, but they recognized the facial recognition locked onto him and left him as the only one alive. Now, it's a silly movie plot, and basically it made him look like he might be a suspect, right? Why did they not hit him, right? But that showed something years before the public really talked about it, or at least mainstream, that these things will have launch capabilities like this. This is a small swarm. They have ones that can launch like up to 400 of these things. And this, I believe, kind of looks like the Switchblade, only in a lot more of them. They would be able to fly around, have facial recognition, and then even have internet access, be able to identify a person, probably based on all of the information that they have grabbed from platforms like TikTok and all of the stuff they've scraped off the internet, and it would be able to basically pull up their profile before it takes you out. If you're somebody of value, say you're an engineer or something, maybe it might not hit you, or maybe it will have a different feature that stuns you or puts you to sleep. Who knows? But this is what's going to happen in the next conflict. These things are nuts, and you're going to have these versus those, like these versus themselves. Drones attacking drones. It's going to be insanity. And then you have a new Pentagon map shows how China is beefing up what a top U.S. general calls is a dangerous position in the South China Sea. We called this, the Marfoogle fam called this, everybody called this. We showed you yesterday or the day before, the Spratly Islands were made from dirt off of the bottom of the ocean, and now they are developing a extremely high-tech dredger that can basically do it twice as fast, do it twice as well, and can be built in a matter of months. They are talking about basically making islands wherever they want. They will dredge the bottom of the sea and create forward operating bases all over the place. We talked about that years ago, and I even said a couple of weeks ago before any mainstream came out that this is where it was headed, and this is what military folks were talking about in our groups. And now it's all coming out. They talked about the dredger. Now it says in November, the Pentagon released its annual China military power report, which included a number of maps illustrated to update assessments of the Chinese military's capabilities and reach. One of those maps offered a detailed depiction of the Spratly Islands, one of the tensest areas in the South China Sea, broad swaths of which are disputed by China and its smaller neighbors. 6 different countries claim all or some of the islands and features in the Spratlys, and it says thanks to China's land reclamation and fortification efforts over the past decades, the island's controls there have become the best armed and most imposing. China shows no sign of reducing its buildup or shrinking the presence, adding even more complexity to one of the most dynamic regions in the world. So all of these islands are not only armed, they are forward operating bases. They have airports, they have ports, they have intelligence buildings, they have anti-air, they have radar. Do you remember when, if you've been here for a long time, when the mainstream was saying, oh, this is for an environmental reason? It kind of makes me think of how they said, the lasers that were monitoring Hawaii and scanning Hawaii. Oh, it's an environmental thing. They said that this was an environmental thing. And of course, our community called BS on that right away. We said, no, it looks like they're making a forward operating base of some sort. And then the island started taking shape, and they were like, oh, that's a really long strip. It almost looks like an airport. And then it became an airport. And then they were like, they think they might be adding some sort of military units there. Oh, there's barracks. And then there was barracks. And then, of course, our community said, it looks like there's SAM missiles there. And then, of course, they had anti-air missiles. It's like everything. This is a bad B movie. You know where it's going, but the narratives that they put out in media, which is owned, it will try to distract you from it as long as possible until it's already done. Go ahead, Dex.
If we go back to this map with the red triangles and the red circles, if you look at this is the location specifically in between Vietnam and the northern section of Malaysia and the western section of the Philippines. So this entire region, look at all of those dots. The gray dots are other outposts. The triangles are Xi's outposts, and the red circles with a little plane in it, it's kind of hard to see, but the round ones are outposts that have an airfield. So that is quite a bit of buildup into the Spratly. If you think about all of those locations, there's 3 airfields. In addition to that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more bases that they've put in this region, and it pretty much fills that entire region, or a big chunk of the region in between Vietnam and the Philippines and Malaysia. So that area right there is obviously something they're trying to, by having those locations, they're going to be claiming territorial water around it. And they want to be able to control all of that shipping lanes. And it's not just about shipping, though. This is also about militarization.
And this is why Japan is militarizing their country out of nowhere. If they take Taiwan, then their reach ends up basically pushing into Japan's, and Japan thinks that they are coming for them next. Think about this. They could take a little tiny island off of Taiwan first, and then they could use their dredger, make an island there, and then try to claim, or attempt to claim parts of the island and say, well, we have our own land here now. They are those dredgers that they're making. The story we just covered the other night, it's very clear what the next step is. In about a year or 2 years, if we get that far without some further escalation, you're going to see this and you're going to go, oh, yeah, I remember that. We talked about that a couple of years ago. They're going to dredge and make more islands. Spratly isn't the end, and it could be in other parts of the world. They're expanding like the U.S. did back in the day. The U.S. has bases all over the world. China is taking note from the U.S. China is doing their Belt and Road initiatives and getting into countries. They're also putting their bases all over. They've been doing deals with everybody. Xi Jinping has been busy trying to spread his forces around the planet. They are looking at everything we do, and they're like, how can we one-up them? They're like, well, they have the largest Navy. That's what makes the U.S. the most badass. Well, let's make the largest Navy. And they did so. They go, well, they still have got their crazy Air Force. Now they're mass-producing aircraft at breakneck speed. They have control and bases all over the world. Well, we need to do that too. They're opening up police stations on all the allied countries, so they're basically spying on all of these allied countries, in my opinion. And then, of course, they have all of their infiltration techniques, and through media, through money, through corporations, they've been able to intercept almost all of our information, including even information about our genetics. Right before all of the CV stuff went down, there was information came out that they were doing experiments on, I guess you could say, the place of culture we came from, directed viruses, right? Something that would attack certain kinds of people. And all of a sudden we had this big event, and it's like many people believe we are already at war. We just haven't had anything publicly declared. If you look at this, it's pretty clear. they are building forward operating bases. There is a long-term goal. Doesn't mean they'll win, but as our war games, as Russia's war games, and as China's war games, our own State Department said the only way we would lose in a war with China is if we're going to war with China and Russia at the same time, along with all of their, and that includes NATO, our allies and everything, all of them going at it at the same time. A two-front conflict would be the only scenario that we would lose, hypothetically even. And that's what's shaping up to happen, or at least that's what it's looking like. And then U.S. says Russian warplanes hit American drone over the Black Sea. So, Dex, do you want to go over your opinions on this? I covered all three of the angles that currently, up until the point we did the video on news. Now things have been updated a little bit in just the last hour. But basically there's conflicting reports of what ended up happening with this.
So the initial reports, and that's what we've got here, and we'll get into the some of the conflicting and some of the other things that had happened in just a moment. But the initial report is that our drone was involved with an incident with a Russian, I think was it a MiG or an SU? It was one of their planes, and it apparently took out the propulsion or the propeller, which is the propulsion system of that drone, causing it to crash and crash into the Black Sea. We were told it was in international waters, and we were told that was what had happened with the drone specifically. But the most important thing, I think, out of this, and if the narrative is correct, and that what the West is saying, which is that it was in international waters and Vlad's jets took it down. This incident is the first time since the height of the cold conflict that a U.S. aircraft has been brought down after being hit by a Russian warplane. So that's kind of a big deal. Now, mind you, I think we talked about this. It's a drone. There's nobody on it, so there's no loss of life. But at the same time, are we going to allow that? Are we just going to take it and say it's okay? If it was a complete accident, then that would be understandable on some regards. But as we'll talk a little further along, it seems like what's happening here is a little bit more than what meets the eye, as far as what the West is claiming and as far as what Vlad is claiming. And there are two different stories coming out here now as this escalates. But this was a big deal. Obviously, our president was briefed on it immediately. National security started running around. State Department started talking. Everybody, even the European Command, came out with a statement. Everyone had a statement to make. This was a big deal as it went down. It was kind of the biggest story, I guess, today as it relates to military and what's going on in the European front and pretty much the global front. This is the big story.
And I assume that it's not going to be, the biggest deal. Somehow this is going to be worked out. Somehow there's going to be some story that makes it all right or something. But there's also, this is an advanced drone that has video cameras all over it. That's how they fly the thing. So I just wonder if they're going to release the video and kind of settle what, the whole thing is and let us, see it for ourselves. They usually don't. I think if there's 40 minutes of, conflict there and they're going in front of them, cutting in front, even if they show that, though, people are going to question, well, was that a old Soviet jet or something, or did they take somebody, paint it up as one, and then do it for the video? A lot of people are expecting a Fantastic Freddy type event to happen to start something off. This is a way, if it did happen like this, it would start it off without a single loss of life. I don't see this being the big, Pearl Harbor 2.0 type of thing, Gulf of Tonkin type of thing. And then, by the way, thank you, Ame Katsuni. I think I said that right this time. Leo Seguros, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your support last show as well. Thank you, Ilea. Thank you, Carol. Ray the Way. Uncommon News 777. Stephen McMahon. Of course, Be Real Beast. Elijah D. Zariel. Natalie D. Carol White. Northern Girl Hobbies. Zen1 AZ. El Sheepo Dago. And AZ Arizona Nature Chick. Thank you. Mind of Tron, thank you over on D Live. Thank you guys for support over there. 100% Mo, life is better on stilts. Nice to see you here. Hope you're doing better. I know a lot of folks were praying for you. And then Kimbria, Vicky K, Chance, thank you for modding. Thank you, Yobi. Thank you, T-Man Red Pill. Scooby-Doo-Doo Right. And thank you, Caudazel. Thank you so much for the lemons over there. And then my nemesis. Thank you so much for the support over there on D-Live. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. And then what's known and what's not about the U.S. drone. So this is an updated piece. We'll get to this in just a second. But again, just a reminder, if you don't have long-term survival food and you just want to get it done, you can get a 3-month supply. And of course, there's always freebies or a huge discount when you go through our code. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get a 3-month supply of freeze-dried food that will last 25 plus years. So that means this food will be good, again, till 2052 or longer. That is freeze-dried, so it takes all the moisture out, so it conserves a lot of the flavor. Preserves a lot of the flavor, and you just add hot water, and then boom, you cook it in water, and you've got yourself a meal. So make sure to go check it out. It's really good food, and again, it's very affordable. Compared to some of their competitors, this is probably one of the best price per meal that you can get out there. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. They also have smaller plans as well, but with that 3-month plan, you always get either a huge discount, or right now, I believe it's still the Alexa Pure Pro, which is a $300+ value, and you get that for free with our code. So that is a gravity-fed water filtration system. That is the kind of thing you need. It's on every prepper's kind of list of things to get. Again, it gets rid of 99% of the nasty stuff. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. And then what's known and not about the U.S. and Russia jet crash. This is one of the most recent pieces that came out from the AP, Associated Press. It says when a Russian fighter jet collided. So this is saying when it collided with a large U.S. surveillance drone over the Black Sea on Tuesday, it was a rare but serious incident that triggered a U.S. diplomatic protest and raised concerns about the possibility Russia could recover sensitive technology. U.S. and Russian officials had been conflicting accounts of the collision between the MQ-9 Reaper drone and the Russian Su-27 fighter jet, each blaming the other. But a Pentagon spokesperson raised the possibility that the Defense Department could eventually declassify and release video of it if it has of the collision. It says that defense officials said that the drone has not been recovered, but the Pentagon declined to say whether the effort was underway to gather debris or pieces of the Reaper. You can pretty much assume that they're going to try, right? Where did the thing land? Where was it actually? Where was the exact location? Was this thing on a top secret mission that we don't know about? Again, we don't exactly know yet. It says the Pentagon and the U.S. European Command said that the 2 Russian Su-27 aircraft dumped fuel on the MQ-9, which was conducting a routine surveillance mission over the Black Sea in international airspace. They said that the Russian jets flew around in front of drones several times for 30 to 40 minutes, and then one of the Russian aircraft struck the propeller of the MQ-9, causing U.S. forces to have to bring the MQ-9 down in international waters. So, Dex, when they say that, are they saying that because the propeller was damaged, that the pilot, the remote pilot 1,000 miles away, basically put it down into the water? I'm assuming
Correct.
That's what they mean.
It only has one prop on the back of it, and when that prop was damaged, it had no more propulsion. So they had to, I'm assuming they glided it down to try to land it the best they could in the water, but it probably crashed.
Well, I wonder with how it's set up, how would they hit that propeller? What hit it? And did it damage the other plane? Again, there's been back and forth kind of reports on this. It says that Air Force General James Hecker, commander of U.S. Air Forces Europe and Africa, said that the Russian jet's action nearly caused both aircraft to crash. Pentagon spokesman Brig General Pat Ryder said that the collision likely also damaged the Russian fighter jet, but the Su-27 was able to land. He would not say where it landed. The Pentagon said that the drone was well clear of any UKR territory, but did not provide details. So they basically didn't say exactly where this thing was, which they probably won't. It said the Pentagon, again, said that it was operating west of Crimea over the Black Sea. The official spoke on condition of anonymity to provide mission details. It's not clear if the collision was an accident or intentional, but both sides agree that the Russian aircraft were trying to intercept the drone. So something fishy is happening here. This also shows what Russia says happened. It says that the Russian Defense Ministry said that the U.S. drone was flying near the Russian border and intruded in the area that declared off limits by the Russian authorities. It said that the Russian military scrambled fighter jets to intercept the U.S. drone. It claimed, quote, as a result of a sharp maneuver, the U.S. drone went into an uncontrollable flight with a loss of altitude and collided with the water surface. So, fancy way of saying it, it went boom. And then Russia has declared broad areas of Crimea off limits to flights ever since 2014 annexation of Crimea. And long before Russia invaded UKR last year, Moscow has charged that the U.S. surveillance planes were flying too close to its borders while ignoring the notices issued by Russia. Nations routinely operate in international airspace and in waters, and no country can claim limits on territory outside of its own border. The ministry said that the Russian aircraft was scrambled to intercept the drone but didn't use their weapons and didn't come into contact with it. That was, of course, the defense ministry from Russia saying that. So, and then if you want to read about exactly what the MQ-9, it goes into it later in the article, but it's one of these big Predator drones, one of these guys, right? So they are nasty. They are as big as I guess they're bigger than a Cessna. They're big. They're probably what would you say, Dex? Like twice as long as the Cessna. They're pretty bulky themselves. They can carry all sorts of different weaponry.
Yeah, they look like a plane, absent having a very thick, tall fuselage for humans to ride in.
Yeah. So they're insanely deadly. They could hit somebody in their living room wherever they may be. Who knows? We might have them flying above us in the U.S. We just, they're very stealthy as well. They can fly at very high altitudes, and I believe they're pretty quiet too. Let's see here. Michael Bush, thank you. Charles B. Android Architect, we have Athena de Guzman. Couldn't we capture the balloons? Don't they ever get tired of losing wars, says Jeff. Stephen Morris, what's happening? Scratch, we have Kathy Piana. Lone Ranger, what is happening? How are you doing? Let's see here. Bobby Sue Fry, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of his sins according to the riches of his grace, Ephesians 1:7, KGV. Hey, Bobby, thank you for being here. And then Borna Hawkeye says they flew them over Las Vegas and flew them over Rittenhouse. We have them here in America. Yeah, I remember when they came out with that they had drones above the riots. That was nuts. But I thought they were smaller drones. But again, I'm not going to comment because I don't know enough. I don't remember exactly what kind of drones those were. They had footage, though, which is insane. Spinderella 360 says, I know, they follow me everywhere. We've gotten calls like that. I don't know if that was you that we had several people say that they have them in, different areas like Texas and they follow them. Maybe the balloon was a gift to President B for his birthday. All of this ruse after another. One small group allowing a lot of junk to, quote, sneak out in order to keep any narratives but the real single one. One redeemed rich. What is the real single one, though? I guess that's what we're all fighting over and trying to figure out. That's the whole point of this, is we're trying to figure out between all of the fake stuff, what is the real? The real narrative is somewhere hidden here. It's not even a narrative. It's scattered. The truth is inside all of the MSM, but they are basically diverting you. They're having you take a detour to false angles of it, false everything. So we have to be smart. We have to look at common sense. A lot of the times, common sense has prevailed. If they're building an island and it looks like it's going to be an airport, it's probably going to be an airport. It's probably not going to be, some sort of environmental zoo for endangered animals, right? Especially, if they're putting up a space station, it's probably not just for science experiments, right? But that's just my opinion. Dex, go ahead.
One other thought. These drones, I think it's been stated that an operator's command takes 1.2 seconds to actually reach the drone. So if you think about when you see some of the, Hollywood movies like Top Gun, where, they're monkeying around with each other, or they're flying upside down trying to, get close to the other plane, but not really touch them. That's all human driven in real time. The reaction time is real. The ability to adjust and react instantly is real. But in these drones, there's a bit of a delay. 1.2 seconds is quite a bit of time when, you think you need to move right, but you can't because there's a plane in your way, but you're really 1.2 seconds late making that adjustment or seeing that. So that could come into play here too, as the story continues to expand.
Well, expand or change or be edited or just have a complete BS kind of line come out. And then if it does go the BS route, then 6 months later, the truth will end up coming out, and then they'll debate about the truth, and then Congress will talk about it, and then it'll be a current distraction for that week, right? Rhiannon S., thank you. And by the way, I accidentally called you Shannon the other night. Hey, Adam, let's catch up soon. Call me. Question: if you have a generator, solar or not, can an EMP take it out, even if it is solar? The answer is yes. It can technically take out it can't take out the panels, but it can take out the generator. But I would go with the Flex because you can get the actual protector for that. So again, you can actually get an EMP shield for the Flex. I don't think there's the Flex 1500 is the only one you can get the EMP shield for. So I would just get a Flex 1500. But yeah, this is the out. Yeah, and then there's an in that goes in and protects it as well. So yeah, highly recommend getting one of those if you do, because then you'll be safe. Regular generators, they make one for two. If you have a gas-powered generator, I would definitely send us a message. I can give you tips on what kind of gas-powered generator you get. Most people go for the dual fuel ones, and then you'll definitely want to know how to properly store the fuel. Also, Survival Living did a really great video on the pros and cons of both. So if you want to go check that out, Rhiannon, I would highly recommend it. And then Ray the Way, as someone who is in the Air Force, a fuel dump is not enough to bring down a large craft. A DJI drone, 100%. But a drone the size of a jet won't be harmed. But like you said, this will be swept under the rug. Well, I don't think they're saying that the fuel dump is what, caused the propeller to break, because I don't think the liquid could, do that. But under the one account, they're saying that part of the plane or something, like they dropped underneath it and it hit the propeller. It's all a bunch of BS. And then Tasha, thank yous. Again, thank you. Ryan B., Emily Hillard, Kenny Crowder, thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Ryan B. Wings and Wags, Patriot, Ray the Way, Carol McLean, thank you. And Carol, I appreciate you. And then DJW, and of course, Neil Nelson, Mimi Miller, and Joseph Newhouse, and Stephanie Munoz. Nana of Montana, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. And then Greg Davis, and of course, Truth Iris. Thank you for being here tonight. I saw you pop in earlier. And then Russian fighter jet crashes into the U.S. Reaper. This is yet another angle, but this was kind of as it moved along. We'll just kind of skip along because we've already kind of covered that. And then UKR military holds large-scale conflict exercises in northern Ukraine. Dex, do you want to cover what is happening here and what's they're basically drilling to do?
Well, typically we've heard them do their training and drilling in other countries, whether it's in the U.S., Germany, Poland, other locations. But apparently they're doing a big drill in their north, in the north of their own country. So one might think they would need those people to be actually in combat if they're in the country, but I guess they're doing these maneuvers to train and get trained up, and probably take some of the stuff they've learned while they were training in other countries to help increase their proficiency with their military. It's I've read, and we've got some of this in overflow, like an example of their losses. There was one command unit who said, this commander said, this whole year he's been in there, he's lost the original 500 that was his under his command, like his original troops that had all the experience. They've all eventually been wiped out over time. Now he still has a large command, but it's all fresh or new troops or new people that have been brought in or that have joined. So they're probably having to spend a great deal of time training and exercising new recruits uh, just as fast as they can put them to the front line. Much like what we hear from Vlad's side, we just don't hear that story that much. We hear it from Vlad's side, like they're taking women out of prisons and putting them on the front line. That's the new headline. That one's an overflow too. So yeah, so this is probably along those lines. It's probably one of those stories we don't hear much about coming out of UKR, as far as how they're either low on troops or having to train a lot of troops and get them trained up.
Yeah, because they want you to think, oh well, because we've given them trillions of dollars, that they're winning, they're kicking their butt with everybody's hand-me-downs. They're taking out number 3 country in the world's military, right? Totally, what's happening. And then Russia deploys 3 missile carriers to the Black Sea. This is, funny timing considering what just happened over the Black Sea. I don't know, Dex, do we know what happened first or if these were already on their way? I know that the Royal Navy was tracking the other ships through the English Channel, right? It was the English Channel, correct, that we covered last night or the night before?
Yeah, and NATO was following them through the Mediterranean out of the Black Sea.
Yeah. So are these the same ships? Or are these
no,
different?
I think we've reported the fact that they had 2 there recently, and I think they're bringing a third one in. So now they're deploying, as the headline calls, they're deploying 3 of these ships into the Black Sea. I think the main point that this matters for UKR as it relates to the missile strikes, if they don't have the ships in the sea, then they're all coming from the land or coming from the air. Which is what they've traditionally done. They've launched them from the planes. They've used some of their more advanced planes, but they won't even cross their own border because they don't want to put their planes in harm's way. So they fire from inside Russia's border, but they're capable of doing that. So that's not really a bad thing. That's part of a tactic. But that's the whole point, is most of it has been coming from the north, from the east, from land and from air. So by moving more of these ships into the sea, it's going to give Russia more opportunity and probably more ammunition, because part of the message we're hearing in the media is that they're running low on this and running low on that. Well, obviously these ships haven't used their missiles yet. So when they move them out there, they'll be able to take their payloads and deploy them.
So we're probably going to see in the news pretty soon that there's going to be a massive, massive strike. This is the question that I've had since, when this started, is if they have all of this advanced Navy, these Navy missile carriers, these frigates, all this, they could pull it right up. They have long-range missiles. They could literally just annihilate UKR if they chose to. I would assume that, right? Can Navy folks here, if you're former Navy or current, will you chime in? Do you believe that Russia could just wipe out whole swaths of UKR with their Navy, even along the coast? Could they do that? And I guess why haven't they? So they don't destroy infrastructure, so they don't hit civilian lives. You would think that they, or is this what is already happening? I know that there's been a bunch of things that we've covered as far as ships firing missiles and barrages of missiles, but it's like, why are they, going in slow-mo with it? If they have the ability, why aren't they just smashing them to high heavens? Dex, do you have a comment on that? I don't know if I know we've covered so many where I know they destroyed their one flagship super advanced ship. What was it, Moskva or something, or I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, one of the earlier ships, and that's probably the risk they've had by not wanting to put them in there, especially since the U.S. was helping with guidance and equipment that they could possibly, damage or deplete their Navy forces. This is definitely a big amount of munition that's coming in, and I would expect them to be able to do what you're describing. But you also have to take into account that from Vlad's point, they are trying to save their people, as they call it. So it doesn't necessarily, now this is just political ganda, but it doesn't necessarily bode well for them to just go in and completely decimate the place. It makes more sense for them to be more strategic and hit military targets and infrastructure targets and try not to hit civilians. Not only is that bad just in general in the Geneva Conventions and other things, but if their mission is truly what they say it is, they're not fighting an enemy. They're trying to free their people, so to speak. I know that's probably a little bit more extreme than it really is, but that's what they claim. So I don't think you would necessarily see a tactic that is complete and utter decimation of complete towns and things like that. Now, we have seen that in Bakhmut and other places where the conflict has just carried on so long. The battles have just gone for months and months and months that just, every last place in town is getting hit on both sides.
And some interesting comments here. What was that? Lone Ranger. Some of USA, Chinese, Russian destroyers have solid state lasers on board, a slight game changer. But it seems like all of them have that technology now. Those lasers. What are they using this for? They can knock down aircraft and drones and things like that. Can those lasers take out other ships? How powerful are the new lasers? And then check engine light. Let's see. Oh, perhaps if you dump some fuel on a drone, then shoot off those flares used to confuse heat-seeking missiles, then it would blow up. Actually, that's pretty interesting. You get what they're saying? The chaff flares, I think they're called. But you dump the fuel out of the wings of your jet, because I think they do that before they land to be light or something. Or, anyways, they dump the fuel on the drone so it's covered in flammable fluid, and then do the flares. Then they could say that they, didn't directly attack it or something. I don't know, though. That sounds like it would just be, they would be like, well, you just straight up attacked it. But in a very creative way. Yes, they can, but they don't want to hurt people of UK. You don't understand the SS. Why do you back them? Yes, they can, but they don't want to hurt the people of Ukraine. Don't you understand? They are SS. Why do you back them? So I don't know if you mean like, why do I back Russia? I don't back Russia. I don't back Ukraine. I definitely don't back either. I think that they are two branches of the same tree. They're the same people. They came from the same background. They have probably very similar genetics. They're brothers and sisters and cousins and mothers. I don't believe any of it should be happening. But I do believe that there's a ton of corruption going on, and there's a lot of BS happening. And essentially, I think that there's a lot of Western propaganda that's confusing the hell out of people. I think that people should, not take a side. I think they should just take the side of truth. And if there's parts of the U.S. that are doing nasty things, you should call them out. You can be a patriot and still call out when there are nasty things going on in any country. But yeah. B. Blake, thanks. Fate favors the prepared Dean. Yes. Reaching Cold Mountains, Okie Khan. Get that Marf's back, right? You're Rusty, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, well, the thing is right now, I mean, like, there's so much, everybody says there's so much disinformation, but there is real information out there. It's just buried in all of this crap. This is grade A propaganda, everything around us. if you're in wartime, you're not going to know you're in wartime. In World War II, there was so much propaganda, and people didn't know up from down. They didn't even know if you weren't alive, which most of you probably weren't. But if you look back, they didn't even believe. There was a good chunk of people that did not believe about whatever was going on with the Jewish folks, right? There was whole phases and stages where people didn't believe it, then they believed it. They didn't. People were so confused back then too. This is history repeating itself, and it's very clear that we're heading towards this precipice of some kind. It's a restructure of power, and it's a huge moneymaker. War is money. My point, though, is if they can annihilate them, they could, and they're not. So it's obviously purposeful. And then Putin says that Russia, and this is kind of what they're saying, it says that Putin says that Russia is fighting for its very existence. It said that President Vlad said on Tuesday that what was at stake in Ukraine was Russia's very existence as a state. It says, speaking at length to workers at an aviation factory in Buryatia, some 4,400 kilometers or 2,700 miles east of Moscow, Putin expanded on his familiar argument that the West was bent on pulling Russia apart. So for us, this is not a geopolitical task, but a task of survival of the Russian statehood, creating conditions for the future development of the country and our children, he said. Putin was accused the West of using UKR as a tool to wage conflict against Russia and inflict it on a strategic defeat. The United States and its allies say that they are helping UKR to defend itself from an imperial-style invasion that has destroyed UKR cities, killed thousands of civilians, and forced millions to flee their homes. I just want to point out, if you noticed, our website, because going back to this, our website points out we show both sides of the story. We often try to make sure that we have both sides and both angles of it, even of the stuff like that, the negative Trump stuff and the positive stuff. We show you both. You're an adult. You can handle it. You can make up your own mind. You're most likely going to agree with whatever is in your own echo chamber and what you believe, and then think the other thing is completely BS. But I will say this. It's so funny how quickly mainstream media changed their narrative on UKR. If you go back to 2014 and what the general narrative was that there were Russian people in UKR suffering at the hands of their current government that they had right then. You go look at the Vice documentary that they put out, and they went in that city and they said, all these people, they're being, punished and all this. And that was mainstream media. They showed it on CBS, MSNBC, CNN. How fast can that change? And now you're carrying Putin's water if you bring that up. That's what I don't get. There's if you go, you could say that to 2014 CNN. You could say that to 2013 CNN or CNBC or MSNBC. It's like, who are you to trust right now? You can't trust anybody about anything. And that's why we tell you, we're not telling you what to think about this. We're telling you to make up your own mind. Go with common sense. The more that you read, the more that you absorb, the more that you'll figure out the patterns. As the real event happens, after you've read kind of the predictions and everything else, you start getting a grasp of the pattern. You can see where this is going. It's going towards war. I guess I can't fathom thinking that there isn't a war coming. I don't understand that view. It's kind of like if you look at somebody who has the opposite political views and you're just like, I can't understand it. It's pretty wild if you are on the right that you can't understand it. And I do see it too. I'm like, well, I'm right-leaning conservative. And I think, well, what liberal and left is they're believing lies. But that's not a left-right thing. There's lies on the right. There's lies on the left. There's lies everywhere. There's these shady people on the right that pretend like they're patriots when really they're taking money in the back end and they're, basically they're just doing that so you get them into the place they need to be so then they can bring these corporations and depending on what corporation it is, it will be a right-leaning corporation that gets in and has their way. I mean, there's so much BS out there We need to wade through it and figure out what is really happening. But I think more people should come to the conclusion that this war is going to happen. It's happening right now in front of us. Before we move on, I want to remind you guys, the new energy, this is the one I was talking about. You can get protection for this for an EMP. But now they have a tactical energy, Flex Tactical. This is crazy. One of the best things about this is that it can heat itself. It has a heater, so in extremely cold environments, this thing can run. The reason why you would go with any of the Kodiak or the Energy, the X2 or the Flex 1500 is that these are reliable. If you have an SHTF situation, you can go cheaper, but just as if you buy, a cheap toaster for $25, in 2 years it breaks and you need another $25 toaster. If you buy the best, then these last for a very long time. These things are made, again, very, very incredibly like trucks. The Flex 1500 is the system I have along with the X2s. I have 2 X2s. These are amazing. I would recommend both. But if you want long-term expandability, then I would go with the Flex or the Tactical. But I would personally say the Flex. The Tactical is for those you guys are going to want to, if you go with the tactical version of everything, then I would go with that. But again, I think for most people, the Flex 1500 is going to be enough. And then you can expand this up to 96 batteries. So over the years, if you want to take one paycheck every 6 months and get another battery or something and save up and keep building it and building and building it, you can do so. That is what is really cool about this. And it's modular, so you can make it into a UPS system. You can make it so it basically charges 3 times as fast. There's all sorts of mods that you can add in later. So if you want to get the basic unit and a few panels, you can do that, or you can go all out. But again, if you go with a good one, it's kind of like tools. If you buy the Harbor Freight tools, they're going to break down on you, or they're going to break, or you'll have a literal wrench snap in two. Or you can go with some whatever your favorite brand is. I'm not going to piss everybody off, but you can get good tools and they last for a very long time. That's how I kind of talk about this. To have power, stealth, that is a huge pro. These don't make noise. You're not going to hear it from 3 blocks away. And of course, they do not take $5 a gallon gas, which is incredible. You put some panels out, you're going to get power from the sun. Even on overcast days, these work. That's a big question in Seattle, and people around me, they go, oh, well, we have rain all the time. You can still get power from the sun, even if on an overcast day, just like you can get burned. But also, they are very, very great as far as you can charge them quickly like battery banks, and you can take them with you, use your power drills at work. You can, of course, take them camping, power, whatever. So go over to marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and you'll not only get a special discount, but you'll also be helping our channel at the same time. Thank you, everybody that does so. We are independent. We're on our own. So not on top of everything else holding us back and people attacking us from left and right. You can help support us. If you believe in us and if you have faith in us, then I would highly recommend going through us rather than just going through Energy itself. You get a discount, you're getting what you want, and you're actually helping out somebody you like. Dex, go ahead.
Hey, just a quick update. The Tactical is on a special price during its introduction since they're doing the pre-orders. So that price is going up, they told us. But they did tell us that the Foogle fam still gets the discount in addition to that low price. So if you're really into that thing and you want something that's like that and you're wanting to get it, lock yourself in so you can get it sooner, not get it sooner, but get on the list ASAP, the best price is now because it's going up. That's an introductory thing they told us.
And this was designed with the Air Force and the U.S. Army. So this is it was actually designed with help from the Air Force Research Laboratory. So this thing, I don't think there's many that can really touch this on how badass it is. But I will say this: if you're not, there's a lot of cool things about it. As far as it is actually water resistant as well. It's got an IPX2 water resistance. It's really sweet. So make sure to go check this out. But again, I wonder if you can mix the batteries with the tactical and the regular. That would be cool if you could just get the... you probably couldn't because of how the latches work. Anyways, make sure to go check it out. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. And then We have car blown up in Melitopol, supposedly with Russian-installed official inside. So another James Bond type person, taking the quick way out. Powerful explosion has occurred in the center of a temporarily occupied city of Melitopol. An official representing and occupying authorities was likely inside the car that went boom. It says RIA Melitopol, a Russian propaganda news agency, reported that a car was blown up in Melitopol at Hirov, Urani Street 48. The explosion took place in the yard near a 9-story living house. I'm assuming that's like an apartment, right? Melitopol reports that an official was perished. Later, and information appeared that the car belonged to collaborationist and fireman Dmitry Kirchevkov. It says collaborationist Vladimir Rogov claimed that Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, which was blown up, supposedly belonged to Ivan Takak, a local entrepreneur who owned one of the largest private transport companies in Melitopol. I mean, this stuff is like out of a movie. This is straight up out of a spy movie, the stuff that happens. People get thrown off of buildings. People get thrown out of the windows at 60 stories high. This is real life in other places in the world. It's just crazy that there's a Bond movie at all times somewhere in the world. That stuff's real as it gets. Even like the, whatever London has fallen type stuff. It's like that stuff happens. the drones, the drone swarms and things. This is becoming reality. And then Russia has been forced to issue old ammunition that has previously declared unfit for use, says UK Intel. So you can put your badge of Ganda or not on this, but they're basically saying that they're using even dangerous ammunition because they're running out. Dex, do you want to go over this and what you think?
Well, just like we said, they're moving the ships in, and that brings a whole nother load of munitions for their rocketry or missiles, I should say. In this case, what we're hearing, and this is sort of the standard message, is they're running out. Now, what was interesting is we talked about UKR running out, and we were just sending them all we could send them, and they were going through it, rather quickly. But the interesting thing was that the manufacturing on Vlad's side in Russia, they were able to produce a certain amount per month that they were actually consuming. So they seem to be, or at least were in a position at one point where they were able to maintain their stockpiles or maintain the amount of munitions they needed. But this is the story is either changing or it's a different type of munition. Maybe it's artillery ammunition. But it looks like because they're telling us they have to go find the old defunct stuff that is not good, the old stock, and try to use it. So, take it with a grain of salt. That's for sure.
As you should with both sides right now. Everything either comes out of UKR or the Ministry of Defense of Russia. So we don't know exactly what's happening there, but it doesn't look good. I would say pay more attention to what the narrative is pointing at with China and Taiwan. As you guys know, I think Taiwan will happen this year. But what do you guys think? Let me know. What do you guys think? Do you think that Taiwan will be taken in 2023? 1 for yes, 2 for no. I guess you can put 3 for maybe. And pushing no doesn't mean that you don't think it's going to be taken. Just do you think it's going to happen this year? 1 for yes and 2 for no. And I'll actually put up the results up. Let's see. And it's okay to disagree. You don't have to go with what everybody else says. You can. I'm sure some people are going to say 2 just to stand out. That's how we roll. The Fugel fam is not, we're not, what do you call it? We're not just followers. 3, the U.S. will destroy Taiwan.
We don't always agree either.
Ooh, you and me? on a
Yeah,
daily basis. Yeah, you know, we but we
we have
always
fun debating this stuff.
yeah, I would say before every show on all of the different things we come up with, like what we think, and sometimes you point out that I'm more of, I think we balance each other out because I'm more of the tinfoil hat person, and you're more of the factual, and it balances each other out. Prep Mom PA. But then sometimes I've been right because you're just like, that's just too crazy to believe, and then it ends up happening, and it makes, I think it makes you step back and go, man, this is nuts. Like, stuff like this is happening all the time now. Singapore.
Totally.
Secret Life of Plants. Let's see here. Truth Iris, hey, nice to see you. Anoni Moose, what is happening? It says, yeah, one. Rip Curl Readiness, yeah, I hear you. I'm working on a trailer that is packed and ready. Just do what I can as I can. That says a lot, Rip Curl. By the way, Rip Curl is an extremely responsible, respectable guy. Very, very smart. The smartest people in the world right now, the smartest people you know, probably have a backup plan. And that's the thing. The smartest people you know are the ones. Did you look at who ended up doing the? They basically the numbers for college educated people, the smartest, most successful people, were not doing it. And I just thought that was funny. When they did that study, I was like, wow. The doctors, the lawyers, the people that are, Ivy League schools, they were not doing a certain thing. Just like, man, how did people not see the pattern there? Let's see here. Badger 1. Lone Ranger, thank you, appreciate that. John McGill, Rip Curl is very intelligent. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out his channel, he's over on marfooglenews.com/friends. You can find all of the mods there. Thank you guys for coming today. We will have, there's some pretty crazy stuff that is in the works right now. Only rumors on Twitter right now, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm hoping, to be honest, I'm hoping that some of this stuff is not true about what is happening with our navies. But as you guys know, this week, China cut the lines to, or supposedly, we don't know, but the internet cables and the landline cables between Taiwan, two Taiwanese islands were cut. At the same time, there's all of this chatter of them mobilizing in China. If you live in China, like if there's that gentleman, what is it, Live in China with Patrick or whatever his name was, I'd love to see him again. He says he lives there. I would love to hear from some folks who actually live there, especially if you're an American citizen watching from China. Let me know. I'd love to hear your opinions and what you believe is going on. I can always have my mind changed, but again, I do believe it's going to happen. I don't think anybody could change my mind on that, but I'd definitely be open to seeing why and how things are going. Dex, let's go over the web only. We have lots of crazy stuff here. And then thank you, Ray the Way. Ray the Way, by the way, first real quick. Ray the Way says, absolutely not. Fuel dumps at that speed will fly back. Also, you'll have to hover pretty close and match speeds to even try to achieve that. So the flare theory doesn't unfortunately work. That sounds logical. Again, I'm not a pilot, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, that if you're going that fast, you would think that the fuel would just. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the web only. Lots of crazy stuff here.
Certainly lots going on. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link. It's in the description on YouTube and Rumble. It'll take you to this webpage where all the news we just talked about is there. That we've got all of this. When you hit this yellow bar, you're going to get to this overflow section. It's all of the rest of the story. So lots of things happening. One of the things, and if you refresh, you'll see it, Adam. But one of the things, there was a huge solar event that just happened that Wages covered. He had talked to us about right before the show started. That was a Carrington level event, but it didn't hit us. It went off the backside, but it was like one of these events that's just so huge. If it had hit us, it would have probably set us back quite a bit. This is one of those ones that that we always talk about. We know it's going to happen at some point, and here it is happening. It just was pointed in the wrong direction. It was so big, though, we still got radiation from it, even though it was on the backside, not on the front side facing us. That's there. We do have additional updates on what's been going on with SVB in the financial system. Carl Icahn's coming out saying that our system is breaking down. There was the talk about how Twitter probably fueled the bank run. I think that's more of a hit piece against Twitter themselves. I think, you could just use the term social media or networking fueled it, because that's what happened. People started talking, and they're going to talk wherever they talk, whether that's on WhatsApp or Facebook or Twitter. But certainly that was the point. It was a run, and when a run happens, that pretty much will take any bank down. Apparently, Newsom, the governor, was pushing hard for this bailout, but didn't bother disclosing he actually had ties and his own money tied up in SVB, which is some people are saying is illegal.
Shady.
So yeah, go take a look at that one if you're interested. More people are coming out saying don't go to Mexico, stay out, especially if all the spring breakers are happening. And what's been going on with the security down there. Of course, we heard from the president of Mexico yesterday saying they're safer than the U.S., but take it for what it's worth. Other stories going on. There's a new version of GPT, the Chat GPT, but this one can actually see, and by see it means they can take input from images and then give textual information based off of what it's inputted from the image, as well as others. It's kind of in early phase, but that's a new one. We're probably going to hear some interesting things coming out of that one. Tyson Foods shutting down 2 chicken plants in the U.S. As we move back into what's going on in UKR, they've been reporting up a lot of these smaller drones being seen around Moscow and the Oblast region. So a lot of UAVs coming in, but we haven't heard of any of the explosions. But I don't know what's really going on there. But that's the report. Interesting story, basically describing the current UKR situation as their version of a civil conflict. And as we talked earlier, I suggested that that's what they're looking at. They're Russian people there, and it's not something they want. They don't treat it as an enemy. So, a catalytic converter thief, another one has bit the dust. If you're into that kind of story, it's there. Other updates going on with UKR. There's a whole lot there. That's all of the Ganda pieces that fly around. Everything from Wagnerites maybe on the way out, as well as draft notices. I even think there was one about them drafting or pulling women from the prisons and bringing them in. So that's all there. SpaceX updates with Elon is there. Of course, we have the political spectrum covered with what's going on with potential indictments, what's going on with upcoming who's running, who's not, as well as who's supporting UKR right now and who's not in their political runs, how that starts to divide the landscape. So, and the last article there, really important. Current president signing in an executive action expanding control around the 2A, specifically around background checks. So all of that and more, it's all there on the website. It's easy to get to. Go to marfoogle.news.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link. It's right there in the description on YouTube and Rumble. You can get the rest of the story. We put it together for you every night.
Yeah, it's just common sense. Okay. Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate everybody that made it today. Thank you, Ray the Way and Rhiannon S. Thank you over on D Live, Scooby-Doo Do-Right, Kimbria, Vicky K. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Everybody in the chat, thank you. And Rhiannon S., thank you for being the top supporter tonight. And then, Jessica Mathis, 7386. Thank you so much for watching the replays. Thank you for being, I think you and Lori Oder are probably the only two that do the super thanks. So again, thank you. There's a couple other, like Jenna B. Official last week. Thank you. We do appreciate that. And I guess it sticks out because there's only one or two of you that do it. So thank you. Says, thanks. Love watching you guys. You guys help me get through my day at work. Everyone should be watching and knowing what's going on. Some people just want to keep their eyes closed. Jessica Mathis, thank you. And that was on Rules of Engagement. Thank you, and thank you for your support. Neil Butler 5767. Thank you for last night's show. Did a super thanks. Thank you for the $2. I guess, or no, not $2. £2. Thank you from Europe. Thank you, Neil Butler, and thank you everybody wherever you are in the world. If you want, do a quick roll call. We're going to be doing shoutro. So again, get to know the people next to you. They might save your life someday. Have a good night. Thank you, Dex. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank RJL Harris for being at that news. Obviously, Ilea has been just an amazing help around here. Thank you so much, Ilea. Thank you, Rip Curl, for being here. Thank you, all of the mods that made it tonight. I appreciate all of you guys. Make sure to go check all of them out. Trinity, CJ Blaze. We're going to be having a few new names in there soon. So, again, stick around for that. Thank you guys for the Foogle fam, the Marfia. Keep rocking. Support each other. Push people up. Push each other up. Make sure to back each other up. If it doesn't matter what channel you're in, spread the vibe that we have here in other channels. Don't push people down. Push people up. And let's have a peaceful community. It starts with you. Have a good night, guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Let's make one for Rhiannon. Rhiannon Ness. that reminded me of Rink. This one's for Rhiannon Ness. They just had their 2-day anniversary. They met at summer camp. All right, sorry. All right, let's get this show on a road. And by the way, this is just to say thank you to the people that matter most. You, thank you. Love you guys. Are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Let's make a new one, a fresh one from scratch for Rhiannon S. She also runs the Facebook. She is awesome. She's been around forever. Thank you so much. Her and her husband are awesome. Her husband is, I believe, still active duty. If not, has done his service for the country, so thank him. I actually had dinner when they visited Seattle downtown, and it was really a beautiful dinner. Breathe on it out, take the breathe on it out. Breathe on it out, take the breathe on it out.